Greetings, we are in Senior English A. Remember, now we get to say that. We're not in Senior English B anymore, we're now in Senior English A. Which means that we now go in our hymnals to the very beginning of the book. Because of our decision to kind of change and start halfway through the book. You'll remember last September we were working with halfway through the book, the Romantic period. Now we are in Senior English A. And our first topic of discussion is a poem that we will call, for your notes, Beowulf. Now go ahead and look at the spelling real quickly and write it down one time. So that way from this point on you know how to spell it. Alright, so go ahead and look at it real quickly in your annotations and make sure that you got the spelling of this epic poem, Beowulf, correct. Now, I'm hoping that you're looking at your little packet that I've given to you and the day one packet. The page one of that packet. Now, do you see on page one of that packet down there below where it says Beowulf in Old English? Put a little star next to that if you've got that packet in front of you. Let's ask Mr. Keeley, you have a tremendous reading voice. Go ahead and read that for us if you would, Mr. Keeley, or attempt to. Mr. Keeley's going to try and read this for us. I'm going to blow your mind. Watch this real quickly. Go ahead, Mr. Keeley. The rest of us will follow along and try not to laugh too loudly. Go ahead.
Dawn comes of mortar under Miss Doppel. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, keep going. You're doing fine, Mr. Keeley. Outstanding. Miss Keller says, I'm thankful he didn't call on me.
Grindel Gongen, Goddess Year Bear, Maitum Si, Nanskanda, Mana Sinese, Somme.
Let's give him a hand. Go ahead, give him a hand. A fine attempt. I would say, Mr. Keeley, that's as fine a job as anyone who's ever attempted to read that. Are you ready for this? Put it in your notes. You can even write it on your packet of page one. Hello, that's English. No kidding. You are hearing Mr. Keeley attempt, let's be gentle, attempt to read English. But wait a minute, dude, that didn't sound like anything with maybe, you might underline one or two words out of that little passage of 4 or 5 lines that you kind of recognize the orthography or the spelling as looking kind of like English, but the rest of that for you looked more like, well, let's say it out loud. It even sounded it that way too. Sounds a little bit like German, a little bit like Scandinavian, Swedish languages maybe, right? Okay. For your notes now, I'm ready to start. The Beowulf epic allows us to think about the English language in 3 phases, stages, or parts. We have, first of all, what we call Old English. That's what Mr. Keeley was just attempting to read. Followed by Middle English. We should put in your notes that we will usually think of Middle English as the English of Chaucer. C-H-A-U-C-E-R. C-H-A-U-C-E-R. Chaucer is a poet we will read here in 2 or 3 weeks. Finally, we will call, believe it or not, modern English Shakespeare's English. Right? So for example, when we hear Juliet standing, when we were 9th graders, that was a long time ago, huh? When we hear Juliet standing on that balcony and she says, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name and blah, 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 blah. That's the actual words Shakespeare wrote. There's no translation going on there. And while some of you will report, well, as freshmen it was kind of hard to figure out everything they were saying, for the most part you could figure it out over time. You could kind of figure it out, right? That we call modern English. Now, let's get some easy dates for you there to make it easy. I'll start and then go in reverse back, go backwards. Shakespeare's easy if you write down 1600. That's the year we believe that he wrote and produced the greatest play of his writing career. Some say the greatest play of all time, the play Hamlet. Right? To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's Hamlet, 1600. Again, modern English. English after 1600 continues to evolve, but it pretty much sounds like Shakespeare in terms of the way we spell it, the way we speak it, with adjustments, obviously. Chaucer will say 1300, 300 years earlier. These are very round dates, by the way, but they're easy to remember. 1300 Chaucer, Middle English, And there you can write down for your notes, Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales. And Canterbury Tales will be for us a text we study here in a few weeks. No worries. By the way, you'll love that one too. Okay? I hope you'll love it. Old English we reference with the text Beowulf. And here our date, to make it easy on ourselves, although it's debated, will be 1000 Common Era. 1000 Common Era. So 1,000 years after the birth of Christ, we finally have the beginnings of what we will call English. But as we pointed out with Mr. Keeley reading it, it doesn't sound very much like the English that we today speak. Okay? Now, how much time do I have? So let me tell you a story before we finish. You can drop your pens. You won't need to write any of this down. I don't share a lot of my biography, my life story. And that's by design. You don't need to know that. I just need to teach you Beowulf, for example. But every once in a while, I'll tell you a little bit about my life because it might be interesting. I was not raised in the United States for much of my life. I was raised elsewhere. And the schools that I went to were normally not public schools. I was blessed to be able to attend lots of private schools. And at one point in my freshman year, I was attending a private school on a university campus, experimental, etc. And I was being lectured by a really, really good prof. She was a prof at the university or whatever. And she started talking in almost like giddy ways about this prof that was going to join us to lecture. We were just like, oh, okay. When he walked in the room, we as freshman boys were all ready, with our spitwads all ready to go. You see, everything was ready. And dude, when he walked in, he looked totally like what you would expect a university prof who's never seen sunshine to look like. This little guy with the bald head and the pale face and the round glasses, and comes in with the little tweed jacket and the bow tie, and he kind of comes in, and she's been talking about this cat for like days, and we were just like, dude, this is gonna be so much fun to jack with this guy. And he walks in, and he walks over, he's got this little soft voice, and he says to us, I'm Dr. So-and-so, whatever, and today I'm going to tell you about a famous poem. We're all just like, we're going to have so much fun this hour. Yes, I'm so glad I didn't skip today. And then he does something quite interesting. Now, dude, it's been a while since I was a freshman in high school. Can I say that out loud? Okay, Mr. McGee's been around a while. And I can remember this moment like it was literally yesterday. This old man, he takes off his glasses and he sets them down on the podium. He shuts his eyes and he starts rocking back and forth like this. Right, that's exactly what we did. That look, Cruz Nicholas, just down on her face like, whoa, the exorcist was soon to come out, if you get my drift. We're all just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Of course, hello, I teach this for a living now, right? I help teachers know how to teach, and I will often say about this story, this cat clearly knew what he was doing to get a bunch of ninth grade boys to listen to him, right? So he starts rocking back and forth, and he shuts his eyes, and then he opens his mouth, and when his voice projects the sound out of his mouth, it ain't that little soft feminine voice that he had when he told us he was going to do Beowulf. This cat was a Beowulf scholar who had all of Beowulf memorized in Old English. And he was reciting to us Beowulf. Yeah, he was reciting to us Beowulf. And when he recited, it totally captivated us. I mean, there was no spitwads. I mean, we were totally mesmerized. We had no idea. I mean, Mr. Keeley attempted it. We had no idea what he was saying, but it was haunting. I've had students ask me, what did it sound like? And by the way, there aren't but a handful of people on the planet who can actually read out loud well Old English. I mean, you got to be a scholar to do this. And this cat was one of them. But I've had students ask me, what did it sound like? And the best I can tell you is it sounded like some of those really fine riffs of good rap music, when there's a real driving kind of beat in the language. And it sounded like rap. And it clearly had rhyme at the end, but we didn't know what it meant or anything. It was like hearing German, maybe, in rap. If you've ever heard German rap, it's really good. It sounds really good. But that's what it sounded like. It kind of sounded like Swedish or German rap. And it had a really strong driving beat to it. This was the epic poem Beowulf. and he was introducing us to Old English. Now, the reason that we study Beowulf today is so we can be introduced to the concept of Old English. In other words, the language I'm now speaking to you, it didn't start out the way I'm talking now to you. It started out the way Keeley tried to read it, and then it kind of evolved over time. So we'll study Beowulf, then we'll study Chaucer, and then finally Shakespeare, to get a sense of the trajectory of your language. The other reason that we study Beowulf, though, is more interesting. It's going to be the beginning of a lot of movies that you'll know about, adventure movies and the like. So, thanks, guys. Come back tomorrow. Having read the packet will help you.